Road to the Pro Debut Part 2. We're back. Mika Frankl, the host, and of course, our talent here, Rakim Thorpe. How you doing, sir?
Hey, man, I'm feeling good. It's Wrestling Wednesday. I'm ready to get to practice. Just got done with strength and conditioning. It's a daily routine, man. Staying consistent. How are you?
Doing well here. We'll start off with, how's the last week been? What's the last week of training been like?
The last week, man, I've been getting a lot of hard rounds in with Steve Garcia. We're up in the weight in the distance with strength and conditioning. So everything's getting a little more harder, but actually it's kind of getting easier because I'm getting stronger and faster. So, we're just pushing. We're about 5 weeks out. So every day I'm getting better. Every day, I'm getting stronger, faster, learning new things. We watched film recently. We got a game plan for this guy. I don't want to get too into that, but just know we're getting ready.
How much studying and preparation do you do looking into Devin and his game, with this just being your first pro fight?
I think it's important to know every opponent that you go in there with. I feel like the more you know, the more you can figure things out and read things on the fly, because every fighter has a tell-all. Every fighter has habits. Every fighter is trained to react to certain things. Like I said, I don't want to get into it, but I do think watching film is very important. It's all a part of game planning and scouting. I got a lot of people watching the fights for me, telling me things, but I'm also using my eye and my coach's eye as well.
Now, not getting into your game plan specifically, but in talking to different fighters, everybody has their own thought process depending on what level they are. I've talked to a lot of fighters that when they're just starting out, they're not so much thinking about constructing a game plan because on this level, there's usually not a lot of film and guys are evolving so rapidly. So how much are you a game plan guy versus getting in there and a read and react guy?
Well, I guess you're right about that. Some film could be outdated. He's got 2 fights on YouTube that were about a year old. They were a year ago. So unless he's been grinding super hard during COVID like me, because, I didn't leave the gym during this pandemic, only when I had to. I still think he'll be pretty similar to that. But at the same time, you got to be in there to actually feel someone out, So, but I got a pretty good idea and grip on what type of fighter he is. I don't want to say too much just in case he's watching, but I'm definitely studying and I definitely know what I got to do.
Well, you said it, 2020, you stayed grinding. Can you give us a little more details, info into what your year looked like? You didn't get to compete, but you said you stayed active in the gym.
Yeah, I had my last fight September 2019. So March came and, they shut everything down. No fights or anything, sporting events, concerts, restaurants, everything. They shut us down completely. But I stayed in the gym, I took the time to actually, learn new things, work on my craft, work on my striking, work on my grappling, working on putting everything together, because that's the most important part, like I can go from standing up with you to going on the ground with you like that and feel just as confident because I've been working, it's all, like they say, drillers make killers. The more you do something, the better you get at it, So I just feel like I've improved leaps and bounds. The old Rakim Thorpe, he was a decent fighter, but this guy you're looking at right now, something serious.
I know you mentioned that there were a couple times that the gym closed down. What were some things that you did when the gym was closed for yourself to be able to keep training?
Well, I'm a firm believer in strength and conditioning, man. Like I think that plays a huge role in in fighting. A lot of fighters lack that, but preparing your body, especially in a pandemic where it's easy to get lazy and you know, gain a lot of weight and not eat right and lose motivation. I use the time to work on my body, man. I bulked up, you know, I got really strong. And then, you know, gradually I just toned up. And, you know, right now, honestly, my birthday's tomorrow, I'm 29, but I'm in the best shape I ever been in
Early
my
happy
life.
birthday.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
How have you learned to have that self-motivation?
I'm not gonna lie, man. Sometimes it's hard, but um, over time, you know, it becomes like muscle memory. Like you can't feel sorry for yourself in life. In that moment when you do, you gotta find things that motivate you. For me, it could be a certain song. It could be reading a certain book or watching UFC Countdown or Floyd Mayweather training on YouTube. Something to get my mind back in the you know, just the grind of staying in the gym. That's what keeps me motivated. Also failure, you know, being mediocre. You only get one life. Um, and as you can see, I'm already 29. Time flies. So I'm making sure I'm cashing in on all my goals and doing everything I can while I'm still young, you know. I'll be an old man one day. I want to look back on my life and know that I did what I wanted to do.
It also sounds a lot like that's work ethic. Where did that work ethic get instilled in you?
From a young age, you know. Just staying in sports, playing football as a kid. My uncle, whenever it was time to run sprints, you know, we would all hate it, but we would have to do it anyway. You know, that's just being molded into a champion from a young age and never quitting and never giving up. And all the coaches that I had growing up, I probably learned something from each and every one of them, you know? Um, and then I got to give credit to myself, man. I always been a hard worker. I always stood up for what I believe in. I take pride in who I am. So if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the full extent and I'm going to give my all regardless. I'm going to control what I can control. That means I could get up, I could go to the gym, I could be coachable, I could pay attention, and I could try my hardest and, you know, do my best.
You've talked about being coachable. The we've seen the results of the work you've put in the gym, and we've talked about that it's been a long progression now doing this for some years. What was actually the hardest aspect for you to grasp when you started MMA?
Honestly, the hardest aspect was losing the weight. They used to, man, my coach used to tell me, yeah, man, you're gonna fight at 145 one day. And I used to just look at him like he had three heads. Like, I don't think that's gonna be possible because I'm like 185 pounds. How you expect me to lose 40 pounds? But eventually I started eating right, you know, and I started seeing the weight drop. And if you train daily, you're gonna sweat, you're gonna work your body. And if you add strength and conditioning, it becomes easy. So now it's kind of like I have a system. I know what to eat when it's time to cut weight. I know what to eat when it's time to gain weight and get stronger. And you know, I'm still learning tricks and trades along the way. I never stop learning. I'm a sponge, you know.
A sponge, the growth. What's been some of the harder lessons that you've had to learn in this fight game?
That the higher you go, the harder it's gonna get. The harder you gotta train. I'm training harder than I ever been, and like today I was so tired. I'm like, damn, I gotta do this for like another 20 fights. You know, like I could have just chose a regular life, but I'm choosing to do this. It pushes me to be better, man. It's one of the hardest jobs in the world, but I really enjoy doing it. So if I got to put in this type of work, then that's what I'm going to do. I mean, I like to do it and I want to be prepared and I want to perform well. So I'm not cutting any corners.
How often are there those internal conversations? This is crazy what I'm doing to myself. Shut up. I'm going to keep doing this.
Usually in the morning when you know you got to go to practice, that's when, you know, when your body's aching, when you got a sore foot from kicking somebody the wrong way, or when you got a cut above your eye, or when your back hurts. That's usually when you gotta push yourself and motivate yourself. And honestly, it's all mental anyway. By the time you get to the gym and you done sparring, you got so many endorphins released in your brain and your body that you like, what was I thinking? Like, why was I not gonna come to the gym today? Like, I love this. Like, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life, you know?
And it
So
sounds like
yeah, you know,
it,
fighters, we all fight ourselves daily, you know, because we're all trying to be the best. It's hard to stay satisfied. Even when you win a fight, you're always thinking about the next fight or the next event, you know? So every day, you know, you're constantly battling yourself, but eventually you develop the mindset of a champion. And that's what it takes pretty much.
and it also sounds like that shows the dedication and the passion that you have for the sport.
Oh yeah. You know, I'm just starting out. So the beginning of my day from 8 to 3 is all dedicated to MMA. And then I go to work at night and then I get up and do it all over again, you know, every day. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. During the pandemic, I didn't like sitting around. I didn't like not being able to be active or do anything. I'm just a productive person, so I like being on the go. I like using my whole day. I get my rest, but I'm going to try to make the most out of my 24 every day.
And I know you want to make the most out of each opportunity. I remember an earlier interview we did that you said you're also part showman. So, how much have you thought about that? Putting on a show also coming up here for the pro debut.
Honestly, man, all my life I've been a trendsetter. You know, I just feel like that's gonna come naturally for me. You know, I'm not the braggadocious, boastful guy, but my work speaks for itself. I'm always gonna come out there. I'm always gonna give it my all. I'm always gonna, you know, I'm always gonna try to go for the finisher in my opponent. But I'm also gonna respect the sport and respect my opponent as well. But I also want to make it fun because it's fun for me. I love to fight. All the energy, all the nerves, all the adrenaline coming on fight night. I wish there was a crowd. I wish there would be a crowd, but it's only going to be 30% capacity because of COVID. But I mean, I think that's why most fighters fight. Like they love that energy, they love that rush. They like hearing the oohs and the ahs when you do something amazing in the ring, or when you take somebody down. You like to hear, oh, you know, when you elbow somebody. It's all a part of it. It's called martial arts. We perform for a reason.
How big is that adrenaline rush? How that whole process? It seems like your adrenaline would hit from your music to keep spiking when you're in the cage, even.
I mean, the adrenaline starts from, you know, for me, the drive to the weigh-in, you know, like I'm already in a different type of mode, you know. And then, you know, before you know it, you're rehydrated and you're at the venue the next day and you're warming up. And, you know, you're watching the other fights on the card. You're watching people get knocked out, finished, choked. You're watching people lose. And then you're just thinking to yourself, like, okay, I'm almost up. I'm 3 fights in, and I'm trying to get my warm up in and my last few ticks. I remember my second fight here when I got my finish and I hit the guy with a gable grip rear naked choke. I remember practicing it with Christian Edwards. I'm like, how do you get out of a triangle? And then how do you take someone's back? And then he showed me, and then I went out there and I I executed it. So I think those are the most important minutes, that final hour up until your fight. If you're not focused, if you're not mentally ready, it could have an effect on your performance and how the fight goes. So you got to know how to channel that adrenaline. You got to know how to channel those nerves, because that's always going to be there. Like, you ain't running away from that feeling. Like, you got to embrace that. And I was talking to one of my teammates about that. He said, just take it all in, because it's never going to go away. And then, once you get out there and, you throw that first jab and you connect, it's just like, this is what I do. I love it here. The cage is my home.
March 26th, Caged Aggression 30. How do you make the fight your fight?
How do I make the fight my fight? Can't get in the game plan, but when you're a mixed martial artist, any fight is your fight. If you wanna stand up and mix it up, you better be able to take as much punishment as you can give out, because durability is very important in this sport. If you ain't got no defense, you like the Brooklyn Nets, you scoring all the points, but they scoring points on you too. So you got to be balanced. You got to be well-rounded. You got to be conditioned mentally, physically. You got to be ahead of it. You got to be one step ahead of your opponent in every aspect. If you want to go to the ground, you got to have submission defense. You got to know how to control. Like, in football, it's time of possession. You got to be able to control the fight, control the center of the octagon. If you get someone on the ground, you got to know when you can take a little rest. You got to know when it's time to attack. You got to be technically sound. You can't make any mistakes, because it takes 1.5 seconds for a fight to change. And I will be in there for the whole 15 minutes, and I'm not taking my eye off this guy.
I saw that jab at the Nets, man. Their defense has improved the last 4 games.
Yeah, they're bringing in the defensive specialist, Andre Roberson. They need him really bad. So we'll see what happens.
Hey, that Amon Shumpert pickup, too. That's going to pay off.
Oh, yeah.
A defensive line on the bench.
Yeah, Shumpert does play defense, too.
I got my fingers crossed like this that the Nets are going to make it tough on the Lakers in the finals.
Yeah, hopefully, man. They just need some bigger guys for Anthony Davis.
Man, and now AD's on the sideline, too, and everybody in Lakerland is on their breath.
He'll be back. He'll be back for the playoffs. Don't worry.
Are you a Laker fan?
Nah, I'm just an NBA. I'm just a sports fan, man. I'm a Giants fan and a Knicks fan, but nowadays I like following players because they bounce around so much, I like watching contenders.
I got to ask, on the MMA side, was there people that you're a fan of also that you like to watch as a fan, watch them fight?
Yeah, I got people I like to watch fight, and people that my favorite fighters are right now. It's Kamaru Usman, because his work ethic, he's a specimen, but he's also technical. So, I try to want to embody how he fights, or even Gilbert Burns. Even though he lost, he's a killer standing up, but he's also a killer on the mat. Like, I like balanced fighters. My favorite fighter of all time, GSP. Why? Because he can wrestle, he can stand up, he can kick, he can pretty much do everything. And he's also conditioned mentally and physically. So I like fighters that are balanced and well-rounded.
I know you're going to put your own style to it, but would like a GSP, is that a goal to try to get your skill set as well-versed as his was? Because he could do it all.
Yeah, man, let's take GSP, Usman, and let's just roll them up into one person, and that's who I want to be. I want to be something like that, yeah.
We got to let Rocky get to wrestling practice. This is week 2 in the books. We'll be back for week 3. Rakim, again, it was great getting to talk to you.
Yes, sir, man. I'll see you next week. Let's go. March 26th. We 5 weeks out, baby.